Hey everybody, welcome to episode 43 of the Half Price Concessions podcast, as this week we sit down and talk with Chris Lamb from the XLIII Midgets. I want to give a special thank you to everybody and anybody who has subscribed to our podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, TuneIn, Stitcher, YouTube. If you've subscribed, we thank you for doing that. If you haven't done so yet, please do so. It would really help us out a ton. And on Apple Podcasts, be sure to give us a 5-star rating and leave us a review. That would help us out as well. If you have been at a short track in North Carolina, South Carolina, even up into Virginia, an asphalt short track that is, you've probably seen Chris Lamb and the XLIII Midgets. And you've probably seen Chris Lamb at the front. His number 9 Eastern Midget is always a tough one to beat out of the Radical Race Gear stables. I've known Chris for several years now, actually worked as a USAC official with Chris Racing, along with Jared Irvin and a bunch of other drivers that came from that series. And here in 2020, decided to sit down and finally have a conversation with Chris for the podcast, talk about his background in midget racing, why he runs that series, and what's to come for him in the future. I really think you're going to enjoy this one. Chris is definitely a fun one to watch, whether it's on the racetrack. He's a great person to talk to, and he shares his knowledge with just about anybody and everybody. As long as you're not some disrespectful little twerp, you'll probably get some help from a guy like Chris Lamb. So sit back and relax. You're going to enjoy this one. Episode 43 of the Half Price Concessions podcast with Chris Lamb is coming up on the other side of this break.
Planning on doing some digging in your yard? Your simple backyard project could quickly turn dangerous. Buried underground cables and lines are just inches below the surface. So don't forget to make one very important call to 811. Calling 811 is the first step in having your buried utilities marked so you know where it is safe to dig. 811 is free, it's fast, and it's the law. For digging projects big or small, make the call to 811.
This episode of the Half Price Concessions podcast is brought to you with support from Performance Center Racing Warehouse. In addition to being the home of the PRW chassis, Performance Center offers in-house setups and consulting, plus suspension and chassis pull-down analysis, along with their fabrication shop that can re-clip your race car with the fastest turnaround in the industry. Give Roger Johnson and the Performance Center team the chance to earn your racing business by calling them today at 704-838-1400 or visit them online at performancecenter.com. That's PERFORMANCENTER.com. Here on the Half Price Concessions podcast, and we are joined this week by Mr. Chris Lamb. Chris, it is good to see you again. Now that I'm gotten out of the track announcing things so much, I don't get to see you as much. I feel like I used to see you like every other week at either A Speedway or wherever else we were. Now I rarely see you, but I'm glad you haven't gotten any uglier since the last time I seen you.
Well, I'm glad to see you too, Tyler, and it's great to be here on the Half Price podcast. Thank you very much for having me.
With all this going on, have you even hardly got to race at all this year? Because usually the division you run in with the midgets is usually a support division. You guys aren't usually headlining. So how much have y'all gotten to race at all this year?
We've had about 6 or 7 shows cancel on us, so we've gotten to race a total of 3 races so far. So not very much, but we do have something scheduled here soon, and I'm hoping that we get to have that one go for.
I was about to say, is that this has got to be the least amount of racing you've done at this point in the year ever, probably since birth, right? I mean, yeah. I feel like when I look at like your Facebook feed and the results and stuff that I usually see, like you probably ran 30 times already by this point in the year in a normal non-pandemic year.
Yeah, as much as we could, definitely. 3 weeks it doesn't allow you to get into any sort of rhythm. So it's almost like getting back in that seat for the first time at the start of a year every week. So it's a little rough, but we'll make it through and keep going.
So most people that hear this will probably know you as the guy who's usually out front when the USAC midgets or just midgets in general come to their racetrack. And it's always funny to me, for me to see other people watch you guys run, because they're so people around here are so much used to just the bigger cars. It's easy to see the number. It's kind of easy to tell who it is. And with your style cars, they're so much smaller. I've told people all the time, I can't recognize the car numbers. I just have to recognize the paint schemes. But it's so cool to just see people around here get exposed to it, because there's just not a lot of open wheel racing down here. I mean, even with you guys, there's just not a whole lot of
Right.
for south of Indiana, y'all might as well be, the outskirts.
Yeah, we're definitely the outcasts when we show up to big late model races or late model races in general. But we're trying to grow the series as much as we can, travel to different racetracks, kind of get our cars seen. This series, we have a bunch of cars. It's a bunch of young kids coming out and joining us, so that's more exciting than ever. Unfortunately, with my age getting up there, it's my time's coming soon to walk away from it. But I do have a son, so hopefully we can keep the series going to where he can be filling the seat when he's old enough.
Do you feel like the old guy out there?
I am the old guy out there. What are you talking about? Feel like it. Racing against 15-year-olds. Yeah, I am the old guy now.
I'm about to say, with it being just so much kind of late model heavy country down here and stuff, with kids that come down here to run with you guys with the USAC midgets and stuff, does it feel like something for them to kind of springboard trying to along more of a NASCAR journey, or do you guys see a lot of kids that come down here do this and then kind of go back up toward Indiana and run where it's like USAC National Midgets and 360 Winged Outlaws and stuff like that?
It kind of depends on where their mindset is at. If they kind of just want to stay racing and do it as a hobby, then I don't think you'll find a more fun car to drive than what we are in. Now, if they want to use it as a stepping stone, again, it's a great car to be a stepping stone for, I guess, a later, more progressive series. Maybe people have heard of Jake Garcia.
Yeah.
He actually raced with us for 2 years and used it as a stepping stone. Now he's winning super late model races and all big money races and stuff like that. So, again, it's just kind of where your mindset's at and where you want to be in the next couple of years. It kind of determines where you go with it.
It's funny how they spread out different, because I remember Ryan Krachin when he was kind of with you guys, and I think now he's running, I think the big block mods or something like that. And then I've seen a few others that last year at the North-South Shootout, the open wheel modified race at Hickory, I think I saw a few guys that names were kind of familiar. So like you said, it is kind of cool to see that springboard, because your kind of cars, because you're going so fast and your tire's so small, it seems like it's like a legend on steroids, in the sense of you've got to learn car control in a hurry or you're going to get hurt.
Yeah, it's they're not easy to drive by any means. They have a lot of grip, I'll say that, but it's kind of a wheel to throttle input situation that you have to figure out, or you can get hurt pretty badly in these.
So tell me a little bit about what's under the hood. Just how much power do you actually have underneath you?
We have about 200 horsepower in it there, but the car only weighs 1,100 pounds, so the weight to horsepower ratio is pretty good. But they're a 2.0 Ford motor, actually out of a Focus, that have been fuel injected and a little bit of other stuff done to it. It gives it a little bit more horsepower and makes it a little bit more fun.
Gotcha. Is it one of those things where it really takes y'all kind of that first full lap to kind of get going, and then it kind of turns into a momentum deal?
Yeah, it's definitely a momentum car. Now, if you go to smaller places like Wake County, the gear is so, I guess, low in it or high in it that you can. It doesn't take much to spin them up. But if you go to Dominion or Orange County, yeah, it takes about a lap to get there.
Yeah. What's about the biggest place y'all have gotten to take those things?
Dominion, for sure.
Yeah.
It's which, no complaints really. It's smooth. It's big, so it's really fast. It makes for some great racing, but in a sense, it is almost a little too big for our cars and the horsepower we have.
Yeah. What's the smallest one? Was it Wake, or have you found smaller with those cars?
Wake around here is definitely the smallest place, but
or that old what was the old track behind Concord? Was that a quarter mile or was that a fifth mile? I remember you guys running on that with Jared Irvin and them. That might have been a quarter.
I don't even remember what size that is, but Wake feels smaller than that place.
Yeah.
Yeah, Wake is, the corners are tighter, I guess the walls are closer. It feels smaller than anywhere I've ever been.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Have you gotten to drive a whole lot other than these cars, or have you kind of just been so much more into this?
Well, this has kind of been where my home base is. But I have driven some 410 sprint cars, some midgets out in Vegas, some go-karts, obviously, from when I was younger. But, yeah, no, I really haven't stepped much out of where I'm at right now. Just kind of use it as a hobby and to pass time and spend some time with my dad.
What was a 410 like? That thing had to be like a dream come true for you.
Yeah, those. I wish I never had to get out of it, I'll say that.
Where'd you run it?
We ran at Hickory. I ran 8 races in it. Hickory, Anderson, South Carolina. And then, believe it or not, I ran like 4 other racetracks. I don't remember the name of them. They were all in Ohio or Indiana or someplace up north.
Yeah. About to say, about a dime a dozen up there.
Yeah, so I couldn't remember the name of them.
See, I've always heard guys talk about on dirt going from a crate late model to driving a super. They say it goes from having a little bit of control to driving something that you got to drive like you're pissed off.
Oh, yeah.
Was that like what was with the 410?
Yeah, you have those huge wings on the front and the nose. I'm sorry, the nose and the back. And then you got 1,000 horsepower. You got to figure out a way to keep that planted, and then with that wing, you're hardly ever out of the throttle. So it's you gotta muster up some go there and figure out how to drive that. And coming from a race car with 200 horsepower, getting into one with 1,000, it was a pretty big learning curve, and I had to do it quickly and on the fly.
About to say, it set you back in the seat.
Yeah, it was intense.
See, I feel like that would be, and just from the little bit I know you, I feel like that would be like your dream come true path would be to get to run like what people see with the World Outlaws or All-Star Circuit, where you got all that power and you get to race as much as they do. Because I hear so many guys talk about, like you just said, you're only getting to run 3 times this year. When you get to run 60, 70 times a year, just how much better you get.
Oh, yeah.
Would that be kind of your dream there to run the 410, or did you have aspirations of something bigger?
No, that was kind of my goal, is to to run a 410 sprint car and kind of level out there and be done with it. That was my highlight year, and that's the year I almost wanted to say I made it, and I became a real race car driver. But yeah, that was a glory year. I was on cloud 9 that year.
I was about to say. Tell me a little bit about where you come from. Were you born here in Greensboro, or did you move down here?
I've been in Greensboro a majority of my life since '95. My family moved down from upstate New York. Travel and work, I guess, for my dad. But this is where I started racing. Started racing dirt go-karts with WKA. I had like Liberty Speedway. Some people may know where that is. Ran go-karts for many, many years. And then one day, Dad just showed up with a midget frame. We started putting it together, and that's kind of where all the fun started.
I hate you didn't get to do as much racing up there, because I've heard a ton of stories from like the guys at Speed 51 and stuff, and they talk about all the tracks up in New York and stuff. Mm-hmm. And I don't know nothing about that. I got north of the Mason-Dixon line one time, and I felt like I needed to get back in a hurry. But just such a different culture up there than it is down here.
Yeah, they had a series up there when I first started in the midgets, and we would go up there, I don't know, I would say probably once a month, maybe twice a month, and go race in that series up there. They're not much different than they are down here.
Really?
Yeah, it's in my eyes, everybody's just there to race. Everybody's having fun. It's a racetrack vibe rather than a southern versus northern type thing. Yeah, they may do things a little different, but everybody's racers trying to have fun, trying to win.
Was that the NEMA stuff? 'Cause I think I heard Derek Pernisiglia talk about that being a big deal up there.
Yeah, that the Boston Louis. That's the only race I run in NEMA, so that's my car with a wing on it. And we get 30 cars in our series, in our class.
Yeah.
Racing 29 laps or something like that. And besides a sprint car, that was one of my other favorite times of my life, is doing that yearly and going up there and trying to compete and, I guess, bring my name up in the NEMA site.
Yeah. I know for people that sit in the stands that see you run wingless and then maybe see you with the wing on, it's one thing for the fan to just see the visual difference. Mm-hmm. Now I can't really see the top of your head. I can barely see the front of your helmet as an announcer, but for a fan, there's like, oh, okay, there's a wing on it. That's cool. Talk a little bit about just how different it is for you in the car, and how much more play does that give you with that wing on the top and the downforce it gives you?
The wing, it essentially doubles your right rear tire. It gives you so much more grip in the back that you almost have the feeling that you could not come out of the gas. It has that much grip. But the center drive off, it's unbelievable with the wing. Your entry's unbelievable. I call them training wheels.
Really?
That's essentially what I call them.
It's that much that much easier.
It's easier to drive than it is without the wing. It gives you so much more downforce. Like if you take I don't know how to put it into words, but if you take a wing off a drag car, like the back spoiler off a drag car, they're just going to sit there and light them up and not have any rear downforce. That's essentially what the wing does for us.
It just plants
It just plants the whole car straight to the racetrack.
Shoot. So from your vantage point, take that wing off, and we'll see who the real driver is.
Yeah, it takes a driver to race without a wing, and then takes a steering wheel holder to race with a wing, I think.
See, I never really thought of that, because I got to watching on Dirt Vision, I don't know if it was Knoxville or another track where World Outlaws were running. So obviously they got two wings on. They got the front and the top. But they had the wingless sprint cars. You know, okay, that thing looks kind of funky. It ain't got a lot of sponsors on it. And, I mean, that thing looked crazy fun to drive, and those guys were out there killing it. And I was just like, I don't have a lot of exposure to like the wingless sprints. I just see you guys with the wingless midgets. Yeah, but man, it's that much of a difference.
Big difference.
Wow.
If you want to talk about the dirt sprint cars, wingless and wings, sorry. If you watch them closely, you'll see that the wing sprint cars sit on that left rear, and they're hardly ever completely sideways.
Yeah, they get to that one point where they set
lean
the car
on the left rear, and they're sideways, and their hands are more still, to where if you see the guys without a wing, they got to sail it in there, send it sideways, get the car to turn, plan it down, and get it to go down the straightaway. It takes some real race car drivers to drive a sprint car without a wing. I'll say that.
I've never thought about that. See, that's why I come to interview you. You teach me stuff. Have you ever had a temptation or a desire to get in the big car, the late model, something bigger size, or it just hadn't worked out?
Never really had a temptation to do it. I've talked to Boo Boo Dalton every once in a while, like, hey, you ever gonna let me?
He would never fit in one of your cars.
No.
I love Boo Boo to death, but he would never fit in one of your cars.
No, we have a big seat out there somewhere. If you remember Nick Davidson, he was a big fellow at one point.
He looks small next to me, though.
Well, I don't want to go that far.
You're cool.
But, yeah, we have a big seat out here. But I did talk to Boo Boo about his late model every once in a while. And at the end of the day, I really have no ambition to get in there.
Yeah.
They look cool, but I don't know. They also look boring in the same point.
Well, hey, that's the good thing about racing. Everybody's you get on what you want, and yeah. So what has been the most fun track you've gotten to go on? And I'm sure there's probably 5 or 6 that come to mind, but just one where you're just like, I could go out here and run third, but I just have fun running at this place when we get to go here.
If I had to pick the 2 favorite racetracks, my favorite would be Orange County when it's a lot of grip and the grip's up high and you can run that high side as close to the wall as you can. That's probably my favorite time. It's just more fun. It gets you out of the shell of being a bottom feeder at everywhere else around here. And then Wake County, it's so small. Even with 200 horsepower, you can light up the tires from center off, and it takes more talent and finesse to drive at the smaller places and at Orange County, just because of where the groove is. The car's sideways both places, and you actually have to be on the wheel for all 30, 45 laps and drive it, rather than, okay, well, I'm sitting here in second, let me just kind of hold my ground and then make a move with 5 to go.
Yeah.
Those kind of places are in my wheelhouse and my favorite places to go.
Gotcha. I would kill. I don't think it's realistic at all, but I would kill if you guys could go run like a short road course. I bet that would be a ton of fun, but I know those cars aren't built to turn right at all. Yeah. Hardly any race cars built to turn right, but That'd be cool if I could get you guys to VIR to even run the short course.
Oh man, that would be a show for sure. Just in turn one. I don't know how many
y'all would be.
Yeah, I don't know how many would make it out of turn one, but we would get there.
That's like I took some buddies there for the NASCAR K&N race there, one of them, and we were set up where we could see the first turn, and the first 2 or 3 cars would get through and actually make the turn, and then you'd see boom, cloud of dust. So maybe y'all would probably just get stuck down there.
Yeah, it would be fun, but I don't know how well it would work out.
So with midget racing, you know, as opposed to the kids like Boo Boo Dalton that came up and watched like the Barry Beggerleys and the people like that and stuff, who were the people that you were kind of looking up to when you were coming up?
When I was coming up, my first couple years, I was actually a big fan of Brian Clausen. You know,
BC.
Yeah, he almost had it all when I was watching him, and you know, he was winning everything, dirt and pavement. He was that young kid coming up out of essentially nothing, and making it in a USAC midget. And I was running, I guess, a lower tier of the same thing. That I wanted more horsepower. I wanted to be out there on that big stage, and then, of course, he got the Indy ride, and I was like, well, heck yeah, you know, that's awesome for him, you know. So if I really had to choose somebody in the local wheelhouse, it would be Brian Clausen. You know, if I had to hit the bigger stage, of course, everybody knows Tony Stewart. Yeah. Pretty much everybody that came from the midgets area and the sprint cars. I always looked up to those guys because I don't want to say I can relate to them, but I can. They've came from the same home turf as I have, in a sense.
I'm surprised you didn't throw in some of the national guys like the Kinzers or the Swindells or any of those.
Yeah.
You were more the Clausen guy.
Yeah, I was more of a Clausen guy. He was kind of more down to earth kind of fellows.
Have you gotten to go to Chili Bowl yet? Even just as a fan?
Tell
me about that, because I've always wanted to go. It's on my bucket list. Tell me about that.
I like to put it as 9 straight days of partying with a little bit of racing thrown in. There's countless times you wake up in the morning not knowing what day it is and who's going to be on the racetrack.
And you were there. It sounds like you were there for the full experience. You didn't just pop in there for the Saturday main event.
I was there for the shootout through the Chili Bowl, so I was there for 2 solid weeks. And then when the shootout rolls out of town and the Chili Bowl rolls in, it's almost like a big circus. It's insane at the amount of people, the amount of fans that show up for it. The place is packed. If you're not racing that day, most of the time you're sitting there watching, having a cold one.
Yeah.
It's one of a kind deal. And I really have been wanting to go back ever since, and before it's over, I'll be back.
I was about to say, I'm just amazed how they, the entry list has just gone bonkers on it.
Oh,
It's really hard to keep up with who's even out there sometimes.
You never know.
Just to make the main event is crazy, let alone being there to watch, and they got the, got the lights turn off for the driver intros and all that craziness.
You've got so many big names trying to make, I think it's, what is it, 20, 25 spots? I don't even know how many it is, 24?
I think it's 24.
24 or something like that. Gosh, there's probably 120 people that are eligible to make it, to win that race. Just they have to make it through their qualifier night or the alphabet soup or whatever they end up having to run. But, easily half the field could win that race.
What would keep you from doing that? Is it just a very costly thing to go out there and go do?
Money is what's keeping me from doing it.
Yeah.
It's
I bet that would be expensive.
Majority of those cars are one-off cars that they either run it once a year or they run it once and get rid of it.
Really?
There's no weight rule, so all the cars are probably, whether or not I know this for sure, probably on the bottom end of a safety realm.
Yeah. That's why they flip so easily.
Yeah. And like I said, there's no weight rule. I don't know if there's a motor rule. If there is, I don't know. But I guarantee you, it's probably $100,000 for a car.
Goodness.
Yeah.
So you don't think about that. You see, I'm watching on TV, and I don't know no better. I'm not thinking that cars cost that much because it's not big. I guess that's what it is. For me. I don't. It doesn't look like a big car, so it doesn't look like an expensive car.
If you have like the likes of Christopher Bell and Kyle Larson, Rico Abreu, the people that have won it the most in the recent years, they all have Toyotas under the hoods. Those motors are $70,000 for a national.
Jeez.
Yeah, for a national car to run a weekly show. Now, if they're different for the Chili Bowl, it means that price goes up. So
Yeah.
I couldn't afford to do that.
I'm about to say it just kind of starts to amaze me how much Keith Coombs takes in for all the rides that he rents out during that thing, because he's usually got 9 carts there.
Oh yeah, I mean he's able to make a very good living off of it.
Yeah.
So I mean he has to be making somewhere.
Golly, is there another event that's like Chili Bowl? Like not I know not to that extent, but just maybe if people are like, midget racing's kind of cool, but what else is there other than Chili Bowl that's like a big time deal?
Well, you always have the USAC Triple Crown, which is midget sprint cars and Silver Crown cars all packed up in one night. That's a good show. That's actually where Kyle Larson got noticed. He won all 3 of them in one night, and then I think like the next year or 2 later, Tony Stewart introduced him to Chip Ganassi, and that's how he got his cup ride.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a good show. And the dirt midgets, they run, I think it's like 60, 70 times a year.
Yeah.
And
that's just the sanctioned races.
Yeah. That's up in Indiana and Ohio area. So up there, you just Google it. I'm sure it'd be easy to find a dirt race with them there.
Yeah. The Silver Crowns, I feel like I remember watching them for, I think it was like the Tuesday Night Thunder the ESPN2 had. Mm-hmm. And then it seems like, I don't know if it's true or not, but like it just fell off from where it used to be. It used to be like you said, Tony Stewart. I think Jeff Gordon came from it, and so many guys, Ryan Newman, I think, and then like it seemed like everybody just quit going up to Silver Crown and just stayed in midgets and going and running sprints.
Yeah, it's I don't think there's much money in Silver Crowns like
you used to be.
Yeah, they're you have the professional sprint car drivers. They make a pretty good living for themselves just doing that. To where if you go up to Silver Crown, it's just not as well liked. The cars aren't completely yawed out and out of control. They're more like a late model than what anything you would think of in that group of cars. So they're not exactly that much fun to watch, and they all race on mile and a halves, big racetracks. They spread out. It kind of gets a little boring, but it's still part of USAC. It's still part of I guess the legendary USAC, if you want to call it that.
Yeah.
But, yeah, not many people can make much money doing it.
Where's somewhere on your bucket list that if I came to you and said, Chris, this daggum scratch off finally paid off. I got $2 million. Let's go take your midget and go run it wherever you want to get like that bucket list track in to go run your car against great competition or whatever. Where would it be?
That's easy. We just spoke about it. Chili Bowl.
Okay. Other than Chili Bowl. I'm going to take Chili Bowl out of the equation. It's got to be like a Terre Haute, or it's got to be something like that.
Eldora, for sure.
Oh, yeah. I forgot about Eldora.
You can't pass up Eldora. That's a world-famous dirt track, so I would probably go there.
Yeah.
Run the Triple Crown. Be done with it.
Hey, I think Jack Hewitt swept it one time, if I'm not mistaken.
I don't know that knowledge.
Hey, I just know he gave a great interview that one time. It's on YouTube. That thing is legendary.
I don't think we can quote that one.
No, if we did, my grandma would need to turn off. I try to do these things where my grandma can listen and not be like, oh my gosh. But, dang on. So I'm glad I came talk to you, man, because you taught me so much. See, I just don't know much about this stuff as far as the midgets go. I feel like I've kind of become more of a fan of the sprint cars and more specifically World Outlaws and All Stars and stuff, but I forget about the midgets and there's guys like you. I know Dylan Welch at MRN does them, and I think it's Chad Boat. Yep. He has a team that does it, and it's hard for me as a Southern race fan to get so much into it just because there's not much around here. But I feel like if you dropped a Southern race fan in Indiana, they'd probably have 10 tracks around them that would run it. Yeah, and it'd just be like, that's up here what late models is down here.
I was just about to say that. From where we sit, we're about an hour and a half from countless tracks, 7, 8, 9 of them. You go up there and you're sitting in the same place 30 minutes from 6, 7, 8, 9 tracks.
Yeah,
it's unbelievable how much bigger dirt and midget and sprint car racing is up there than it is almost nationwide. That is the glory hole of sprint and midget racing.
Yeah, it's right there and all that. Well, you said, how much longer did you say you were wanting to to do this before you felt like you were going to be too old? How much longer do you have before I need to come out and watch you run before I'm never going to get to see you race again?
The start of this year, I told my dad that I wanted to run the full year. I wanted to try to put another championship under my hat, and then I was going to hang it up for good. My kid is going to be 5 next March. He'll be old enough to run his quarter midget, so that's kind of where I'm going to lean to, hang up my deal and put his on.
That's going to be. I can't wait to see how much stressed out you are for that. I hear so many guys talk about, I'm relaxed when I'm doing it, but I'm stressed watching my kid do it.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's a legacy thing for you. How many generations of y'all have ran? Are we past 3?
My grandfather, my dad, me, and soon to be my son. So I mean, I guess it'll be the 4th one once he puts his helmet on.
That's gonna be something. What's like the biggest piece of advice you could give him?
Listen. That's all he needs to do. If he listens, not just to me, but to anybody. If he listens and actually goes through with what people are telling him to do on and off the racetrack, he'll be all right, I think. You know, it's racing is not taught. I'm sure people have all heard the famous sayings that it's not taught, that it's born in you, and it's a passion thing. If he doesn't love it, he won't be able to succeed in it. If he doesn't have it in him, he's not going to be able to succeed in it. And at the end of the day, I want him to go racing, but if he doesn't want to do it, he doesn't want to do it. But the opportunity's there. Just listen and do whatever you want to do. Have fun. That's kind of where I'm at with it.
That listen thing is interesting. You blew my mind again on that, because I feel like if I was a kid going racing, and you've been that kid, you get in there and you feel the speed and you're doing it, and you trust so much of just what you're feeling. I feel like listening is probably the toughest thing, because you're like, well, I don't want to do that. This feels faster. Yeah. Like how hard was that for you to do? Or were you a good kid and I was just a bad rebel because I didn't listen to my coaches?
Believe it or not, I don't really remember much of trying to figure out how to be a driver and how to race go-karts. And then I didn't really remember a lot of going into the midget. I don't remember that transfer point, but I do remember my dad saying to the younger drivers that there's just a time that it clicked, and it happened with me, to where, you know, I was running 6th, 7th, 8th place, and then all of a sudden I was racing for a win. You know, but I will say, when I first started, I had Brad Knopfsinger. I'm sure people know who that is.
Yeah.
He was in the series, and he was, of course, there trying to help guide me through. And I did take some things he said in, and then other things I just kind of blew it out the window and was like, yeah. I'll figure it out.
Yeah, you're a kid.
So it's at his own pace. It's at everybody's own pace, but you got to listen if somebody's telling you to do something that they guarantee you'll pick up some time. If you don't listen, you're not ever going to get there.
It's probably one of the weirdest dynamics, because you don't get this in a lot of stick and ball sports where it's one team against another team, whereas in racing, you know, like, people will see it if they watch probably a lot of open wheel shows or the sprint car shows, where you see a bunch of the crew guys from a bunch of teams jumping on a car when it comes into pit, and that's one example. But in racing, like you said, aside from like the professionals that aren't going to share much knowledge at all, at this level of racing, a lot of it is, you know, hey, I see you doing this, you know, try it this way or something, and it's someone who owns a whole different car that's running against you.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I think that's probably the hardest thing when I talk about like dirt racing or this level of racing with people, that they just like look at you like you got 3 heads when you say like other people will come over, and like if you're actually willing to listen or just willing to give them some eye contact and actually act like you're listening, you might pick up something really good.
Yeah, there's with all these newer kids in the series, we go to a new track that could have really hurt somebody. Like Orange County is a fast place, and if you get out of control there, you're going to hit the wall and you could do some serious damage. I do my best to take the younger kids and put them on the four-wheeler and take a ride around the racetrack. You know, give them some knowledge about the racetrack, let them see it, tell them where the bumps are. And then throughout the day, if they have a question, they can come over and talk to me. Or, you know, the Jessica Bean, who's been in the series for a long time, she's pretty knowledgeable as well. You know, they ask her for help. If the car is, if you have an accident and the car's a mess, we've had cars show up here at the shop, then we put them back together and help them do whatever we can to keep the cars on the racetrack. Because essentially, if the car is not able to run, that's one less car for the show. And if now you have 5, 6, 7 cars that are unable to show up, now you have, instead of 14 cars, you have 6. And that
looks a lot bad. It looks a lot worse. Yeah.
Nobody really wants to watch a 6-car race.
No, not me. And I'm a hardcore, and I don't want to.
Yeah. So,
do you ever get to the point where with them where they're not listening, and you just have to go, okay, I'm gonna throw my hands up here and let you learn the hard way, and then give you a "I told you so"? Have you had to get to that point with a few of them?
Yeah. They. What kind of gets to me the most is they'll listen at one place and they run well. They run third, and then they're almost like, okay, well, I got this figured out. I don't need his help. And then you just kind of got to wash your hands of that and let them figure it out and kind of do your own thing.
Yeah.
I will help anybody that wants help, but I won't help people that think they're better than me and think they know more than I have. I've been doing it for so long that I might know a little bit more than these younger kids coming up.
Is there a cutoff point with the help? Like, do you have to cut it off at some point where it comes to, like, they want to know exactly what springs you're running or what setup you've got? Like, is there a line? No?
I'll tell them whatever they want to know.
See, that's just, that boggles my mind, and I'm a hardcore fan.
Yeah. At the end of the day,
I mean, you can't drive the car for them, so I mean, I guess that's where the line is.
And the funny thing is my car's a one-off car, so nobody in the pits can run the same setup that I have.
Really?
Yeah. So I have a 180-pound spring in the rear of my car to where everybody else has like 300 or 400s. They can't run my setup, so yeah, they can look at it all they want to.
Is that just you wanting to be different, or that's just what you like? That's just your feel?
My car is custom built from a gentleman up in New York, to where that's kind of how it was set up to be.
Okay. I hear you. So, last driver question I get on you. Because you get to go to all these places. Do you prefer the flatter places where it's a little more finesse, or do you like that higher banking like the Orange Counties where you can get up there and you can just let it rip and you get that higher speed sensation? What do you kind of prefer? I'm
definitely a flat track kind of guy.
Yeah.
That's kind of where I like to be. Except for 2 weeks ago, we raced at Anderson, Indiana. That's a high banked, it's like a mini Bristol.
Yeah.
It's super high banked, but it's about the size of Wake County. So what is that, a eighth mile or something? Quarter mile. I can't remember exactly the size of it. But that place was a lot of fun. And you weren't running the bottom there. You were like middle of the racetrack. You send it in, and then you just kind of get it to turn and plan it and drive off. That was a fun place to race.
So we could take you to Bowman Gray Stadium and you'd be fine.
I'd love it.
Where there's literally no banking at all.
I'd love it there. Yeah, that's
Plus the fans could flip you off and you can see it.
Yeah. I'm notorious to give it back though, so.
I've never seen it. I've never seen you mad.
Well.
Now I've seen you agitated, but I've never seen you like getting out of that car, because it's not like, you know, normal guys, you're used to the visual of, all right, they got to climb out through the window, and then I'm going to go tell this person how I feel. You got to come out of the top, get your legs free, and then go handle your business.
Well, I've been lucky to where I haven't had many accidents. I haven't really had the bumper put to me many times. So I guess there's no reason to be mad unless something makes you mad.
I got you.
But yeah, I'm an advocate of not having to hit people, period, to pass them.
Especially in those cars.
Yeah. And you do it once, it's an accident, but you do it repeatedly every lap. Yeah, you'll get the single finger salute from me for sure.
Well, man, I appreciate you sharing some knowledge. I had a lot of fun with this. I feel like I should have interviewed you years ago because I've learned more in this than I did watching you run at all. This has been a lot of fun for me.
Well, thank you for having me. I enjoyed it myself. It's nice to catch up with you.
And if this is the last year, I've had a ton of fun seeing you race. I've gotten to interview you quite a few times. I think one time I interviewed you and it started raining because I think we were at Ace.
Maybe.
And I think I started interviewing you and it started raining and that was the end of the night. But
yeah, really, really late night too. right?
Oh gosh,
There's like 2 fans in the stands.
those were those nights that gave Brad Allen gray hair at A Speedway. But
Ace Speedway.
yeah, but that's where we met.
Yeah.
I still remember the first time you guys come.
Yeah, that was our home track, I guess. We raced there more in 1 year than anywhere else, I guess, in like 5 years.
I'm just glad you were up front most times because I was still learning you guys so much, and I'm so used to the bigger numbers that I was like, yep, yeah, that's Chris Lamb. Chris Lamb's in the lane.
Yeah, that was.
Or when they got to do the, I think it was the Shane Mill tribute, and you guys, I think y'all ran both nights, and the National Midgets ran both nights, and Rico and Clausen and Kyle Larson were all there.
I remember that.
I think did you win the first night? Or maybe Nick won the first night.
I think Nick.
Someone else won the second night.
Yeah, I didn't win.
You didn't win that weekend.
I don't think I did.
No. I remember Hagan winning the big one the second night, but I forget who won the first night.
I don't know. For some reason, I felt like I saw a trophy around here that said Shane Meal on it. But I don't know. But I don't think it was me.
Well, I've seen you win plenty of other times. But I appreciate you, brother, and I look forward to seeing if your son decides to go with it.
Yeah.
I look forward to seeing another generation of Lamb out there.
Yeah.
So.
We'll have to get him on here when it blows up, the podcast.
We're going to have to teach him how to interview. I can't stand when people don't know how to do interviews. We will teach him right.
Yeah. Well, practice makes perfect.
There you go. You got a lot of practice. I appreciate you, buddy.
Yeah, man, I appreciate you.
Thank you for listening to yet another edition of the Half Price Concessions Podcast. Be sure to subscribe to our podcast on Apple Podcast, Spotify, Stitcher, TuneIn, Overcast, Himalaya, Castro, whatever podcast app you're using. Please hit the subscribe button. If there's a section to leave us a rating and review, please leave us a good one. It would really help us out a ton. Also, if you're listening on our YouTube page, hit the subscribe button there. That way, you'll get notified every time we put out new episodes. Also, you can email the show. The email address is halfpricedconcessionspodcast@gmail.com. You can email us questions, concerns, ideas for future episodes, anything and everything. We'll definitely respond to it, and we just appreciate you listening. Also, if you have friends or family who want to listen but don't want to go to YouTube and don't have a podcast app, you can listen to every episode on our website. That's www.anchor.fm/HPC podcast. Thank you for listening. My name is Tyler Williams, and I hope that you have a great day.